Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing. My name is Trevor Blondeel. Spending 25 years in manufacturing, I discovered the real impact we have on turnover, communication, and the ability to manage change is how we show up. That's the essence of emotional intelligence. In each episode, we bring a guest or message to expand your skills, engage your people, and grow your organization. So let's jump in. They say when you have a passion for something, it no longer becomes a job or work. And it's always fascinating when you can meet someone that's really passionate about what they do. And years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet someone here in Louisville in the electrical contracting business that was as passionate about his industry as I am in mindfulness and manufacturing. And today we have Troy Corrigan of Corrigan Electric, who I've done a little bit of work with and just has a great story as a second generation electrical contractor business here in Louisville, and has gone through his own transitions with his father and his brother, and excited to have Troy on the show today.
Well, good to see you, Trevor. Good to be here.
So the first thing I got, Troy, is you have a bigger purpose, the Independent Electrical Contractors Association. I didn't know this existed. How does this tie into what you do as your own company and the bigger picture of this industry?
Well, so our industry, we don't have a group to go to. IEC, Independent Electrical Contractors, gives us a group to train our employees. I went through the apprenticeship program. So that's how I got started. I was a helper in the field, became an apprentice, became an electrician. And after I graduated, I got involved locally. Well, then nationally, I got involved. And of course, we all know 2022, I'm going to be the national president. And the big picture is, if you're not sitting on the sideline, if you're sitting on the sideline complaining, in my opinion, you need to get out there. You need to be the one involved. If you want to change your industry, you want to be the best for not just you or your team, but the people down the line that haven't even dreamed of coming into the industry yet and become electricians. Because we all know we need electricity. And that's, so we have to have contractors, we have to have electricians, and we have to have a place to train them. And you've got to be willing to step up. And to me, stepping up is being involved and giving my time and giving my energy and trying to lead the association, not for the recognition. It's fun to say I'm going to be the national president, but the recognition is what is the legacy you left that's going to improve on the industry.
I got to remember not to say hydro, because I just got reminded of that yesterday in Canada. That's what we usually call that, but we do call them electricians. From your dad, so how did he start this whole trade and get into this service here, and how does that end up following his footsteps?
So I was glad we have a long time on this podcast, folks. It's only 3 hours long. I'm just joking. He was my grandpa was an electrician. He actually worked for the local utility company. Started his electrical contracting company, and my dad went to work. My dad told the story at 10 years old that they needed someone to help with the digging a ditch, and my dad was in the middle of summer and got up and went to work with my grandpa and came back the next day. And the next morning, my grandpa came downstairs. My dad was eating breakfast. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're going to work." He goes, "What?" "I guess we are." So from then on, my dad was always involved. But so my grandpa had a business. Their succession plan failed, unfortunately. My dad eventually opened up his own company, and with that in mind, he came to us and said, my twin brother and I, and said, "Work for me for a year, and then we'll figure out from there." And of course, went to work for him. I went to college and said I didn't want to be an electrician because I worked in my grandpa's company. I've told you the story, but the way the environment there, and there were some supervisors there that just people weren't people to them; they were machines. And they treat them bad. They verbally were rough on them. And I decided that I was not going to be an electrician and go to college. Well, was going through college and enjoying, the college life and learning, but I still was really just getting a business degree. And when my dad gave this opportunity, I, of course, did it. You want to help your family, but you also, at the time, it's like, well, let's see what this can do. And I tried to go back to the school, to college next year, but ironically, I went to the apprenticeship program because I realized I really like doing what I do. But the fastest way to it is go through the 4-year apprenticeship program or go to college and then go through it. So I tried to do both for a year and then went through the apprenticeship program, taught at school afterwards. I graduated, thought I could be a teacher, and for 2 years, and I realized I don't like teaching adults in that environment. I like meetings and being a facilitator, but not a classroom instructor, and just decided to get involved. One day I went to my dad and said, "How do I get involved?" He said, "Call the IEC." So I called over there, and the executive director at the time says, "Oh, I've got a perfect position for you on the board." It's like, okay, be here, whatever this date was. So I show up to the date, and a guy walks up to me, is Gene Ray, which is a mentor of mine. He says, "So glad you're going to join us, and you're going to be the vice president this year." Ooh. And I said, "Vice president?" I said, "What's next?" He goes, "President." So I'm not one for not going all in, so I jumped in and was vice president for a couple of years, and then president, and then just kind of took off from there.
So manufacturing struggles with skilled trades, and it's getting harder and harder between millwrights, electricians, welders, controls. What do you see drawing the youth into this industry?
So the electrical industry, we're unique. Millwrights, I guess, would say the same thing, but hands-on. And you're able to look at a project and see it to completion, but we're also able to show them where they're going to be in 4 years. Because we have a 4-year apprenticeship program. In Kentucky particularly, like other states, we have a state licensing law. So they have to go through the process. If they want to be a licensed electrician, if they don't go through it, they can't be it. Or they can, but it's going to take twice as long. So to get in and get through the program will help them get to that point. But I think the draw is everybody's tired of hearing, "Let's go to college." They're tired of hearing it, and they're seeing that I can come out debt free. Go to school for 4 years. I'm debt free. I paid for my books at best. Some companies reimburse everything. But essentially they own their books. They're debt free, and they're making great money. Mm-hmm. And then they turn about the type of electrical work they're doing, whether they're on a truck or they're on a crew as an electrician or project foreman, whatever. They can control their destiny. They can say, "Today we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to get it done." And they run the crew and have the pride of sense of accomplishment of whether being a hydro or being an electrician here in the States of when they get done. I mean, think about it. We need electricity for everything. Yeah. Our homes, obviously. I mean, we can't charge our cell phones for very long on our battery packs. So we need electricity for that. I mean, stoplights is simple things. But what if your son or daughter has to go to the hospital? Do you want a doctor working by candlelight with a knife and without a tool? Yes, they can use a stethoscope to hear your heartbeat, but they can't. We need it in the real world. We need it for our technologies are here for a reason. So electricity is where it's at. Well, think of electric vehicles. Sorry.
And there's a lot of purpose in that, and I can feel that in your voice, Troy. For the way everything's kind of shifted, I've never talked to an electrician that is out of work. It seems like if there's an electrician out there and you've got some skill and you've got some level of personality, you've got a job. And there's just always. I talk to lots of people that need more electricians. Mm-hmm. And with the trend now, especially younger people, of not maybe wanting to work 60 hours a week, how does that look like in the future of continuing to get younger electricians, but also recognizing that it isn't the same as it was 30 years ago?
That is true. I mean, we talk about now, we cringe having to even ask our employees to work on a Saturday. You want them to have their 5-day work week. They go home and they enjoy their weekends. The whole goal is to find ways to be creative, and we're working at it, trying to find different ways to, the workload now, like you said, there's the business is booming, or at least the economy is booming as far as the number of jobs and what needs to be done. But you look at the shortfalls of the different generations, and you look at the baby boomer generation here in the U.S. alone, 70-something thousand people that are retiring, 70-something million, that are retiring all essentially at once. You've got my generation, your generation, which is X. Mm-hmm. There's only 40 million of us. So you're already starting short. And then you're going down to the next generation, Ys, which are 70 million. But again, they're not in the same mindset. And so we're stepped down to the Z's. We've got the younger generation there, and they're looking at, hey, I don't want to be the Y that flounders around. I want a job, I want a career, and I want to move forward. And you know, to me, it's all about your environment, your culture, and you've got to define the past. You're going to be an electrician in 4 years. If you get into school, you work for us for long enough to get in school, you're going to be an electrician. So they see an end result, and they know for that first step, okay, now I've done this training to really start my career. Technically, they've started the career in the beginning. But I've done this training to start my career. Now I'm on another launch point on my career to move forward.
So what have you learned that keeps your employees there versus maybe what's the mistakes you've made where maybe you've lost somebody and you've had to do something different because every company has, you know, that's a contractor or even a manufacturing plant has a need for this electrician, and they can go to different places, and there's going to be a few dollars an hour difference here. But what keeps people? What advice do you have?
You know, you could all day long say, I'm going to throw another $2, $5, $10 an hour. You can throw the benefits do help, the more benefits. But it's the environment, it's the culture. You know, I like to say we're not perfect. We just try. And that's all you can do. Every day you're going to be hit something different. You're dealing with personalities. And none of us are like, you know, look at my brother and I, we're identical twins. And Trevor, you know, and people that know us, we're total opposites. We look alike, but that's it. But, you know, everybody needs a place to go, but the place is, where do you want to be as far as the culture? I mean, I've learned about how you present yourself, how you respond to someone. Do you actually, in your mind, you say, hey, I need to check on him, but you don't do it because you're too busy. Instead, you bring him in your office, or you catch him on a job site and say, hey, what's going on? Are you having a bad day? You know, what's happening? And just, I think that alone, learning to care, because you do care, but actually act on your mind and your emotions, and be willing to be unguarded in front of them, and have those conversations.
So something that just caught me there in the fact of caring. You do care, but how much you care doesn't really matter. It's how do they feel. So what have you had to do differently to maybe switch that from how much you care in your heart to how much they feel that you care?
Well, they just have to know. And it's very simple. It's the action to me, it's the action about asking those questions, being involved with them. You know, you never know if somebody's having a bad night at home. You don't know if their wife is having a problem. I gave you an example earlier when we were talking that, you know, our electrician, he was having a rough time. He was showing some emotional outbursts at work, and we're trying to figure out what it was. And I just brought him in the office and said, hey, what's going on? And all of a sudden, the floodgates open. Not tears, the floodgates of, this is what's going on, and I really shouldn't have done that. I did this. And just remind them that life is too short to blow up, but you can't bottle it up. You know, my door's open. Come in and talk about it. You know, and giving them that freedom instead of, you know, being a boss, or because people look at you as a boss, where I look at myself as a teammate. We're part of it. Yes, I'm their boss, but I'd rather them walk up to me and want to joke with me, you know, talk about my bald head, whatever they want to do, you know, have fun. But then when they need it, when it's a serious time, let's talk about, hey, what's going on with you? What can I do to help? And that's the other part. Not just caring and letting them know they care, but it's listening. And then, okay, is there some actions we can take to help you get over whatever that's bothering you?
Would you have done that 10 years ago? Or is this something newer that you're doing?
No. I mean, it's over the years I've learned, but this year particularly, spending the time with you through Operations Kickstart. I mean, it reminds us. It's some of the stuff too. I even in the thing reminds us what we needed, but on some of the stuff you go, oh yeah, I was taught to do this, but we're also busy in our lives, and when you have to make an effort to be the right person in front of your people, and a lot of people it comes off natural, and it can't come off natural, but you also you get caught up in the moment. You're busy, you're hectic, and you're walking down, for us, walking down the warehouse in the morning, trying to get people moving, make sure they have the right material, they have the right information to get to their jobs, and make sure everything's in their tablet and they're ready to go. But then you got to remember to catch the corner of your eye. That's someone who is like, I need to talk to them. And you find a way to snag them and talk to them. You have to. Caring, it's a bad way to put it. Caring is one thing, wanting. It's also, just like you said, the action, but also, okay, what can we do, the next step for them? Because they need to grow as a person, just like I was able to grow this year.
Yeah, so you've done that in the fact of, hey, you and actually, so Troy did go through the program here of leading with emotional intelligence, but really it comes down to, it was already in you, and it's just having it more mindful, more in front of you of saying, hey, I can just get my next task done, maybe quote the next job, or maybe I just need to stop and talk to somebody and say, dude, what's going on?
Yeah, that's the easy one. You think it's hard, but it's easier than you think. You just ask that question. Hey, what's going on? You're having a bad day. And sometimes it's something silly. I'm hungry. You laugh. Oh, well, it's 3:00. You should have had lunch, or it's, hey, like I told you the gentleman the other day, his wife is having some tough time at home and it's bothering him. But instead of sharing so he can get support, he's bottled up and it came out the wrong way.
I like it. The bottle up or blow up.
Yeah, exactly. That bottle will blow.
And how much are you sharing about your own mistakes or what you're learning with the team?
So it's interesting. In a meeting, actually last week, I said, we're all working on this. And I didn't even plan to say it. And I realized that they caught it. But I remind them too, I'm just human too. You and I we can do this podcast and talk about how we're doing and what we're doing, but we've got to do it. But we also are human. We've got to make sure we're following through with what we're doing, just like the coaching sessions and going through the program. I could have just showed up every month and gone through the seminar, the 2 hours with everyone, and then come in here and talk to you and then just went about my day and did normal. But I want to improve myself, but not just for me, but for my team. And so it's hard. It's really hard.
It is hard. And that's why a lot of people aren't doing it. And I commend you, because that can separate us. Just in the fact of, we had Joel on a couple weeks ago, just talking about the same thing around spending that time with the people, being open and honest, talking about those types of mistakes. It's not necessarily normal. And the owners I'm not having on the podcast are the ones that are still saying that, hey, they get paid good money. They should just perform. Right. But it's when you get stuck in that, that's good for you, because those people are not going to work there forever.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
It's what got you here won't get you there. And it's amazing at how slow of a process it is for everyone to catch on. And that's the purpose of mindfulness manufacturing, that hopefully some people are listening, saying, okay, there's a pattern here, that if we're a little vulnerable to saying that, hey, we make mistakes too, but how are you doing? And what conversations create a different experience, and those experiences create culture.
Agreed. And I think that's what we're all about, is we want productivity from our team, but you got to have the culture, and you have to have that conversation. I love them. Sometimes you have to talk to someone, but you're like, I just don't have time. Then you get into it, and you beyond the conversation, you learn more about them, and that what makes them tick, that you didn't know there was a trigger that just by saying hello, or if they're feeling bad and they say they're feeling sick, you say okay, but you should have taken that extra step and say, hey, I hope you feel better. But we're all running wide open. All worlds are just wide open.
So you have two brothers with the same last names at the company. You may have sometimes coming to mom or coming to dad. How do you hold each other accountable, and how do you stay aligned?
Well, so alignment's Nice setup there. Alignment is actually, this program was one of the things that helped us get aligned. We weren't aligned, and we didn't really know it. And when we were talking about, direction of the company, it's going through a succession plan this year, and did not realize that we just weren't aligned. And once we got aligned, the last several months have been great. And it's just, but yeah, it's hard. They'll go to one or the other sometimes and work around. But that's usually not the problem. Is we weren't aligned, and now we're aligned. The alignment's huge. I don't care if you're brothers or if you're just managers in a company. You've got a team. If you're speaking two different languages, you're going two different directions, and that's not good for anybody.
So you have an example where maybe Shawn has called you out, or maybe he hasn't in the past, and is that helping with the alignment?
Yeah, the alignment, it's, we've got to be able to take it from each other also, as owners. Hey, did you hear what you just said? Or, wouldn't it be better? We had a conversation about our hours, when to stop work. Wouldn't it be better if we got them in earlier in the day for them to have a better quality of life, and maybe that'll help production, and in that conversation, I was sitting there thinking, well, we've got a lot of work to do, and not thinking the long-term effects. And he called it, and that was, so you all know, an hour ago, when we were sitting with Trevor. But it's that conversation we have to have, and and we've got to be willing to call each other out, and take it. We're brothers. We love each other. We're also business owners and managers, work side by side, and you've got to be able to take the heat. What is it? If you don't get in the kitchen, don't get in the kitchen if you can't take the heat or something.
You have to be able to be that role model, right? And knowing that, and it's okay sometimes where maybe people will come to each of you with a little bit of the same issue, and it's a good benchmark. But I think the more that we challenge ourselves to say that, hey, how am I showing up? And I was out for dinner last week with Diana, and I like to go to different restaurants in different towns and ask questions. I'm super curious. And the waitress walks away and she looks at me and she goes, you realize she doesn't really want to talk to you. So we need those partners. And I'm kind of like, well, doesn't everyone want to talk to me?
Yeah, everybody wants to.
No, she's busy, and she gave me some body language, and
you just didn't catch it.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, and I study this all the time, and I still make misses. But fortunately, I got a great partner that can just say, dude, do you really see what you're doing here? And it's like, no, I didn't, but thanks for telling me. And so whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's your work relationship, whether it's brothers, we got to keep practicing it.
Yeah, every day.
So what's the one thing that you would leave for listeners, Troy? Maybe it's an owner of another electrical contracting business. Maybe it's an electrician working in a manufacturing plant. What's the one thing that you take away that's going to help your passion of growing this industry, of having great tradesmen and tradeswomen, that we keep growing this?
So you've got to invest and take the time. We've talked about it. You've got to, any program, this program's awesome with that. You invest the time in it, energy, and you'll have the outcome. But you also, again, have to act on what you're learning or what you're being reminded of, depending on your situation. And to me, the best thing about this is I've seen our culture that I thought was great change even better. And it's helped me learn to listen. It's learned to show up. But to me, again, it's invest in the energy. There's no change without taking that first step. And you probably don't think you need it. I didn't think I needed it.
That is the whole intellectual humility, right? We don't know what we don't know. And we need people to surround us that will be able to say, hey, you're talking too much to the waitress and you're kind of annoying her.
Yes, we need the Dianas of the world.
And hey, and it means that we need our people around us. So I'm hearing that because the question I wanted to ask was like, so how do you stay in that learning mode? Like, how do you not slip out of where you are now? Like, you're better now, but how do you stay in that mode for as time moves on?
To me, it's practice what you preach, and remind yourself that, everyone's human, and we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to show up the wrong way one day. Mm-hmm. That gentleman who had the outburst showed up the wrong day, but he just needed the conversation, and I just need to be reminded of it too, just like anybody else. Remind it what you're doing, and use the acronyms, and you'll be yourself and enjoy it.
Enjoy it. That is part of the key. Stay curious. Enjoy it. Be kind.
That is definitely the key. And that's like you talk about the involvement in IEC. It's just it's so much fun to see change, whether it's in yourself or the people around you, or the industry you're passionate about. See the change, and the change. When I say change, the good change.
Troy, you're a leader in the industry. Love what you're doing. Appreciate your support and making it a kinder, greater industry to enter.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey folks, appreciate you taking the time to join us today. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone. Haven't subscribed yet? Do it now. Remember, if you want results, the key is increasing your awareness of how you show up.